High Commander Silara of the Vaxari Empire stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, her iridescent scales reflecting the soft purple glow of the holographic displays. The massive dreadnought, pride of the Imperial fleet, had just emerged from hyperspace at the edge of an unremarkable solar system. Earth, as the natives called it, was their latest target for expansion. "Status report," she commanded, her voice carrying the weight of countless successful conquests. "Preliminary scans complete," High Commander reported First Officer Nexar, his facial tendrils twitching with barely contained disdain. "The third planet shows signs of civilization, but their technology is primitive. Nuclear fission power, chemical rockets, no quantum communications. They haven't even colonized their own moon." Solara's silver eyes narrowed as she studied the holographic projection of the blue-green world. Something felt wrong. In 3 centuries of expansion, the Empire had never encountered a spacefaring species that hadn't at least attempted to establish permanent settlements on their nearest celestial neighbors. "Run a deep scan of their orbital space," she ordered. "High Commander, surely that's unnecessary for such a—" Nexar began. "Do it." The results came back moments later. Earth's orbit was cluttered with thousands of satellites, most appearing to be simple communications and observation platforms. But what caught Solara's attention was the debris field, a massive cloud of discarded rocket stages, defunct satellites, and various pieces of space junk. "How inefficient," Nexar commented. "They can't even clean up after themselves." But Solara wasn't convinced. She'd spent decades studying the psychology of emerging civilizations, and this pattern didn't fit. "Send the standard greeting package," she ordered. "Let's see how they respond." The message was transmitted, a demonstration of the Empire's power, followed by terms for peaceful submission. The response came less than an hour later, but it wasn't what anyone expected. A single line of text appeared on the main display. "We know what you are. We know why you're here. Turn back." The bridge crew exchanged confused looks. No threats, no pleading, no attempts at negotiation. Just a simple warning. "High Commander," the sensor officer called out, "I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from their lunar surface." "Impossible," Nexar interjected. "Our initial scans showed no lunar installations." "Launch a probe," Solara commanded. "Standard stealth protocol." The probe never made it halfway to the moon. One moment it was transmitting data. The next, nothing. No explosion, no debris, no energy weapon signature. It simply vanished. "Launch a second probe, different trajectory," Solara ordered, her scales darkening with concern. This time, they watched carefully. The probe disappeared just like the first, but the high-speed cameras caught something. A brief glint of what appeared to be a simple metal wire. "Monofilament nets," Solara whispered, realization dawning. They turned their orbital space into a defensive grid using technology, so basic our sensors classify it as debris. "But that's impossible," Nexar protested. "The complexity required to coordinate such a system would be hidden beneath the surface," Solara finished. She turned to her communications officer. "Send another message. Tell them we—" The officer's console erupted in alerts. "High Commander, we're receiving thousands of transmissions from everywhere. The planet, their orbital platforms, even their primitive satellites. They're all activating simultaneously." The holographic display transformed as Earth's true face was revealed. What had appeared to be simple communication satellites now showed weapon signatures. The debris field began to move with purpose, forming geometric patterns that no random collection of space junk could achieve. And from the dark side of the moon, massive hangar doors opened, revealing a fleet that had been hiding there all along. "By the first star," Nexar breathed. "They were ready for us. All of this, it was a mask." A new message appeared on their screen. "Final warning. You have 30 seconds to retreat." Solara felt a chill run down her spine as she realized the truth. They hadn't discovered Earth. Earth had been waiting for them. The primitives weren't primitive at all. They had simply understood something that the Empire, in all its technological arrogance, had forgotten. Sometimes the best defense isn't superior technology, but making your enemies underestimate you until it's too late. All ships, emergency retreat, she ordered. We're not dealing with primitives. We're dealing with something far more dangerous. We're dealing with survivors. As the Eternal Dawn's engines spun up for emergency hyperspace jump, Solara couldn't help but wonder how many other empires had made the same mistake, only to discover too late that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology. It was their ability to learn from every would-be conqueror who had come before. The Vaxeri High Council chamber erupted in chaos as High Commander Solara finished her report. The massive crystalline dome, usually a place of ordered deliberation, now echoed with the angry voices of council members demanding action. Retreat from primitives. Supreme Counselor Vex's scales flashed crimson with rage. This is unprecedented. The Empire does not retreat. Solara stood her ground, her own scales maintaining their calm blue hue. With respect, Supreme Counselor, what we encountered was far from primitive. The humans have developed an entirely new approach to warfare. Nonsense, another counselor interrupted. Our scans confirmed their technological level. They don't even have gravity manipulation. They don't need it, Solara countered, activating a holographic display. Look at their orbital defense system. No energy shields, no plasma cannons, just perfectly calculated fields of kinetic weapons disguised as debris. They've turned their technological limitations into advantages. The council chamber fell silent as the display showed simulations of the human defenses. Simple metal wires, moving at orbital velocities, could slice through the most advanced hull. Clouds of microdebris, nearly impossible to detect or deflect, could shred energy shields designed to stop energy weapons, not physical objects. This is why I ordered the retreat, Solara continued. Every aspect of their defense system is designed to counter our specific technologies. They knew we were coming, not just us, but any advanced civilization. They've been preparing. Supreme Counselor Vex leaned forward, his anger replaced by curiosity. How long? Based on our analysis, decades at minimum, possibly centuries. They've been launching satellites and creating orbital debris since their first ventures into space. Every failed rocket, every abandoned satellite, it was all part of their plan. The holographic display shifted to show Earth's lunar surface. And this is what convinced me to retreat. These structures weren't built recently. They've been there for generations, hidden from casual observation. The humans didn't just prepare for invasion. They made preparation part of their civilization's foundation. But surely our superior numbers, one counselor began, would be meaningless, Solara cut in. Their entire orbital space is weaponized. Our ships would have to navigate through what amounts to a giant shredder just to get close enough to launch an effective attack. And that's assuming what we've detected is all they have. She manipulated the display again, showing energy readings from Earth's surface. These power signatures suggest massive underground complexes, their cities, their infrastructure. Everything we can see might be just another layer of deception. You believe they're more advanced than they appear? Vex asked. I believe they're different, Solara replied. They haven't followed our path of technological development. Instead, they focused on turning everything, even their apparent weaknesses, into weapons. The chamber erupted in discussion again, but this time with a different tone. Fear had replaced anger. The Vaxeri Empire had encountered many civilizations, but none that had so thoroughly prepared for their arrival. There's something else, Solara added, her voice cutting through the chaos. They're warning messages. They weren't afraid. They weren't trying to negotiate. They were giving us a chance to avoid a trap they've spent generations perfecting. Supreme Counselor Vex's scales shifted to a deep purple of concern. Your recommendation, High Commander. We've always assumed that technological superiority guarantees victory. The humans have proved that assumption dangerous. I recommend we mark their system as forbidden space and alarms blared throughout the chamber. The main display lit up with emergency signals from the border outposts near Earth's solar system. Multiple contacts, the defense minister announced. Human ships, they're not just defending. They're expanding. The council watched in stunned silence as the tactical display showed human vessels emerging from hyperspace at key strategic points throughout the sector. Their ships weren't as large or apparently advanced as Vaxari vessels, but they moved with precise coordination that suggested long-planned strategic objectives. They were ready for this too, Solera realized. Our retreat wasn't just a victory for them. It was a signal. They knew that once we discovered their defenses, we'd either have to commit to full-scale war or back down. They were prepared for either scenario. And now, Vex asked, his voice barely a whisper. Now we learn whether our empire is wise enough to recognize when it's encountered a species that has turned patience and preparation into an art of war. The humans didn't just prepare to survive first contact. They prepared to reshape the galaxy's balance of power the moment they reveal themselves. As if to emphasize her point, another message appeared on the main display, broadcast simultaneously to every Vaxari world and outpost. Your empire has encountered many civilizations. Now you've encountered one that has learned from all of them. We are humanity, and we're here to change the rules of engagement. Admiral Chen sat in her command center deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, watching as humanity's carefully laid plans unfolded across the galaxy. The massive holographic display showed hundreds of human vessels emerging from hidden bases throughout the solar system, each following mission parameters that had been refined over generations. Status report from the Jupiter shipyards, her AI assistant announced. The last wave of stealth cruisers is ready for deployment. The Vaxari still haven't detected our facilities in the gas giant's atmosphere. Chen nodded, her expression remaining neutral despite the satisfaction she felt. Humanity had spent decades building ships and bases in the most inhospitable places in the solar system, knowing that advanced aliens would never think to look there. Why build shipyards in Jupiter's crushing atmosphere when you had artificial gravity and advanced materials? The answer was simple, because no one would expect it. What's the status of Operation Legacy? She asked. The AI brought up a new display showing dozens of points of light spreading through Vaxari space. Our sleeper ships are in position. The ones we launched 50 years ago have all reached their designated systems. The Vaxari dismissed them as primitive generation ships, just as predicted. Those primitive ships have been another piece of humanity's grand deception. While the Vaxari and other advanced civilizations have focused on faster-than-light travel, humanity had deliberately launched slower ships as well, knowing they would be ignored as relics of a less advanced age. Now those ships, packed with the most advanced stealth technology Earth had developed, were positioned throughout Vaxari space, ready to strike at key strategic locations. Message from the diplomatic corps, the AI reported. The Vaxari High Council is requesting an emergency meeting. Chen allowed herself a small smile. They're finally beginning to understand the scale of what they're dealing with. Put the message through. Supreme Counselor Vex's hologram appeared, his scales now a pale gray of distress. Admiral Chen, your forces have penetrated deep into our territory without firing a shot. How is this possible? Because you saw what you expected to see, Chen replied calmly. Your empire, like many before it, believes that advancement follows a linear path. Faster ships, stronger weapons, better shields. We chose a different path. She gestured, and the holographic display showed the full extent of human preparation. Hidden bases in asteroid belts, stealth installations buried under the surfaces of apparently barren moons, and ships disguised as space debris or primitive vessels. While you were perfecting faster-than-light travel, we were perfecting the art of not being seen. While you were building bigger weapons, we were learning how to turn simple physics into devastating forces. Every primitive technology you dismissed was actually a carefully crafted weapon. Vex's scales rippled with a mixture of fear and admiration. How long have you been preparing for this? Since we first looked up at the stars and realized we weren't alone, Chen answered. Every time we detected signals from alien civilizations, every time we observed distant wars through our telescopes, we learned. We saw empires rise and fall. We watched as advanced civilizations conquered less developed ones, and we decided that when our time came, we would be ready. But the resources required, the coordination, the secrecy. Vex struggled to comprehend the scale of human preparation. We turned our entire civilization into a preparation for this moment, Chen explained. Every space program, every technological development was designed to serve two purposes, one visible, one hidden. Those primitive chemical rockets, they weren't just taking satellites to orbit, they were testing weapons systems. Those basic space stations, each one was a prototype for our hidden military bases. A new alert flashed across Chen's display. More human ships were emerging from their hiding places, revealing that humanity's forces were far larger than even the Vaxari's worst estimates. Your empire has two choices, Counselor, Chen continued. You can acknowledge humanity's right to exist as an independent power, or you can learn firsthand why we spent centuries preparing for war while praying we'd never have to fight one. Vex's hologram flickered as he received reports from his own military commanders. These terms, you're not demanding our surrender. No, Chen replied. We're offering something your empire has never encountered before, genuine cooperation between equals. We've studied your civilization as thoroughly as we've studied your technology. Your empire isn't evil. It's just never encountered a species that was truly prepared for it. She stood, her posture straight but not threatening. Humanity doesn't want to destroy the Vaxari Empire. We want to change it. Help us create a galaxy where advancement isn't measured by technological superiority alone, but by the wisdom to use that technology justly. The chamber fell silent as Vex considered her words. Finally, his scales shifted to a deep blue of contemplation. And if we refuse, then you'll learn that humanity's greatest weapon isn't our hidden technology or our prepared defenses, Chen answered. It's our ability to imagine every possible future and prepare for all of them, including the ones where we have to dismantle an empire to protect our right to exist. The Vaxari War Council gathered in their emergency bunker beneath the imperial capital, their scales shifting through various colors of anxiety as they processed Admiral Chen's ultimatum. Supreme Counselor Vex stood before the tactical display, watching as more human vessels seemed to materialize from nowhere throughout their territory. How did we miss this? General Kraz demanded, his war scales flaring red. They have bases in systems we've controlled for centuries. Because we were looking for the wrong things, High Commander Silera answered, stepping forward. Show them the analysis. The display shifted to reveal a series of seemingly unrelated events spanning the last 100 years. Primitive radio signals, failed colony ships, basic trading vessels, and what appeared to be random space debris. This is how they did it, Silera explained. Every failed mission was actually successful. Those colony ships that supposedly lost power and drifted off course. They were heading exactly where the humans wanted them. The trading vessels that seemed so primitive, they were mapping our defense networks. But our scanners, another council member began. We're looking for advanced technology. Silera interrupted. The humans developed what they call invisible tech, technology so basic that our sensors classified it as background noise. They hid their most sophisticated innovations inside what appeared to be primitive devices. A new alert flashed across the display. Throughout Vaxari space, supposedly dead satellites and abandoned ships were coming to life, revealing themselves as sophisticated monitoring stations that had been gathering intelligence for decades. They're in our communications networks, the technology minister reported, his scales pale with shock. Those outdated communication protocols we left in place for backward compatibility. The humans have been using them to listen to everything. Vex raised a hand for silence as another transmission came through. This time, it wasn't from Admiral Chen, but from a human installation they'd discovered hidden in plain sight on one of their own worlds. Dr. Sarah Martinez, the station's leader, appeared on screen. Her expression was neither triumphant nor threatening, just calmly professional. Supreme Counselor, we're transmitting data that might interest you. The files that followed stunned the Council into silence. They showed detailed records of every civilization the Vaxari Empire had encountered over the centuries, including those that had been conquered or destroyed. But these weren't just historical records. They were analyses of missed opportunities. For each civilization you conquered, Martinez explained, we've identified alternative approaches that could have led to mutual benefit rather than subjugation. We've spent generations studying not just how to defend against you, but how to help you evolve beyond the need for conquest. This is why you revealed yourselves now, Celera realized. You could have remained hidden, continued building your strength, but that would have defeated the purpose. Martinez finished. Humanity's goal isn't to replace one empire with another. We want to fundamentally change how civilizations interact. The display shifted again, showing simulations of possible futures. In one, the Vaxari Empire continued its path of conquest until it eventually collapsed under its own weight. In another, it transformed into a cooperative federation of species, each contributing its unique strengths to the whole. Your empire has survived this long because it's adaptable, Martinez continued. Now we're offering you the chance to adapt again. Not because we're forcing you, but because we've shown you a better way is possible. Supreme Counselor Vex studied the data, his scales shifting through colors of confusion, understanding, and finally, resolution. You could have destroyed us already, couldn't you? All those hidden bases, the sleeper ships. Yes, Martinez answered simply. But we believed you were capable of more than conquest. Every preparation we made, every deception we crafted, was designed to lead to this moment. Not a military victory, but a chance for genuine change. The War Council erupted in discussions, but Vex raised his hand again. Show me more, he commanded. Show me everything you've learned about us, about the civilizations we've encountered. Show me this better way you speak of. As the human data poured in, the Vaxari leaders began to understand the true nature of humanity's victory. They hadn't just outmaneuvered an empire militarily. They had systematically dismantled the assumptions that had driven that empire's expansion for centuries. And in doing so, they had offered something the Vaxari had never expected. Not just survival, but evolution. The chance to become something greater than conquerors. The opportunity to turn an empire of subjugation into a federation of equals. 5 years after humanity's revelation, Supreme Counselor Vex stood in Earth's ancient United Nations building, now serving as the headquarters for the newly formed Galactic Cooperative. The chamber was filled with representatives from dozens of species, including many that had once been subjects of the Vaxari Empire. Admiral Chen and Dr. Martinez sat beside him at the central table, their presence a reminder of how much had changed. The massive windows showed a transformed New York skyline, where human architecture blended seamlessly with alien influences, yet another symbol of the new era they had created together. The transition hasn't been easy. Vex addressed the assembly, his scales shimmering with the deep gold of wisdom earned through challenge. Many in the Empire resisted change. Some still do. But the evidence of humanity's approach is undeniable. The main display activated, showing economic and social metrics from across former imperial space. Systems that had once been mere resource extraction points were now thriving centers of cultural exchange. Former slave races had become equal partners in technological development, their unique perspectives leading to innovations the Empire would never have discovered on its own. Humanity taught us something profound. Vex continued. They showed us that true advancement isn't just about technology, it's about imagination. While we focused on building bigger ships and stronger weapons, they imagined entirely new ways of solving problems. Admiral Chen stood next, her uniform now bearing both human and Vaxeri insignia. "We didn't just prepare for war," she explained. "We prepared for peace. Every hidden base we built included cultural archives. Every stealth ship carried diplomats alongside its weapons. We study the Empire not just as an adversary, but as a potential partner." The display shifted to show the network of human installations throughout former Imperial space, now repurposed as centers of learning and cooperation. What had once been hidden weapons platforms were being transformed into research stations where species could work together, combining their different approaches to technology and society. But the greatest change, Dr. Martinez added, has been in how we all view advancement itself. The Empire once saw less developed civilizations as potential conquests. Now we see them as sources of new perspectives, new ways of thinking that might solve problems we haven't even recognized yet. She gestured to a group of representatives from a newly contacted species, their first exposure to interstellar civilization coming through the cooperative rather than the Empire. Every civilization develops along its own path, at its own pace. Our role isn't to force them into our mold, but to learn from their journey. A soft chime indicated an incoming transmission. The display showed a distant solar system where another potentially spacefaring civilization had been detected. The old empire would have seen it as a target for conquest. Now the assembled representatives saw it as an opportunity for something greater. "We've prepared comprehensive first contact protocols," a young Vaxeri diplomat announced, her scales showing the blue-green pattern that had become common among those who worked closely with humans, based on both human and Vaxeri experience, modified by what we've learned from our successes and failures. Vex watched with pride as his former enemies and subjects worked together, planning how to welcome new species into the galactic community. The humans had done more than defeat an empire. They had transformed it, turned its strength toward creation rather than conquest. "There will always be challenges," Admiral Chen acknowledged, reading the subtle signs of concern among some representatives. "Some civilizations may choose isolation, others may prove hostile. But we face these challenges together now, combining human creativity with Vaxeri determination and the unique strengths of every member species." As the session concluded, Vex found himself in the building's historical gallery, studying artifacts from humanity's past. Their ancient conflicts, their divisions, their struggles, all had shaped their approach to interstellar relations. "You knew this was possible all along," he said to Chen, who had joined him. "Even when you were preparing for war, you were actually preparing for this." "We had to be ready for either outcome," she replied. "But we believe that given the choice between destruction and evolution, most species would choose to evolve, even an empire built on conquest." Outside, the sun set on a transformed Earth, its skyline now dotted with ships and structures from a dozen worlds. But more impressive than the technological integration was the cultural one, humans and aliens working together, learning from each other, building something greater than either could have achieved alone. Humanity had prepared for centuries to defend itself against the stars. Instead, they had found a way to help the stars defend themselves against the darker impulses of power and conquest. They had turned an empire of subjugation into a cooperative of equals, proving that the greatest power isn't the ability to destroy or dominate, but the wisdom to imagine and create a better way forward for all.